Hello everybody and welcome to TV Talks, the show where I take a look at both the good and the bad of what television has to offer. Today, we're revisiting something I've already done before. I know I've already done an episode about this show, but, screw that old video. It was terrible. It was really quiet, there was a lot of background sound. I was really emotionless and kind of talked like this. I don't really know what was wrong with me. I guess I was just an off day or something, probably another stormy day. Everyone kind of not in a great mood, so I just decided to make that piece of garbage. While it did get a lot of view count, a lot of people did point out a lot of legitimate criticisms, and yeah, that video was terrible, so I've since removed it, and here we are, as it is wishlist week. By popular demand, I'm going to remake this video and go into more depth about my beliefs in this show, and hopefully, just make it a lot more polished and, actually watchable this time. Boy, I sure hope that's what's end up happening. So, Ren and Stimpy adult party cartoon. Let's start off with the history. John Kricfalusi, the famous animator slash pedophile, made this show on Nickelodeon in 1993 called The Ren and Stimpy Show, and it was a huge hit because it was insane, it was loud, it was crude, it was everything that cartoons weren't up until then, and it really, really was a landmark. Everybody loved it. Well, not everybody, but most everybody. One of those people, or I guess groups of people, that didn't really like the show was Nickelodeon themselves. And it wasn't because of the show. No. The show was making them a lot of money. So they liked that. They didn't like John. At all. John Kricfalusi is described as very difficult to work with because he's an extreme perfectionist who often throw out completed work in order to make sure that it's done his way. And this means a lot of things don't get done on time. Also, John was trying to do a lot of things in his show that weren't exactly okay for kids at the time, because remember, in the 1990s, animation was just starting to be respected again, so you couldn't really push the envelope that much. Ren and Stimpy was the furthest you could go, and even that was pushing it. And so, with a bunch of missed deadlines, being too crude, and overall just really impossible to work with, John Kricfalusi was fired from his own show, and replaced with a bunch of other people that proceeded to run the show into the ground by popular consensus. And then John K. was just left alone, making things like The Ripping Friends, or maybe a couple shorts here and there, until 2002, when he was contacted by Spike TV, who was starting up their new adult animation lineup. They had other shows like Stripperella and Gary the Rat, and they wanted John to come back and make an adult version of Ren and Stimpy, because they were also owned by Viacom, therefore they could get the license to that. They wanted him to come back because Ren and Stimpy was becoming popular again, and also because they didn't make a SpongeBob adult one like they wanted. So I guess Ren and Stimpy was their second choice. But hey, John was thrilled. He would have given anything to come back to Ren and Stimpy, so he said yes in a heartbeat, and Ren and Stimpy adult party cartoon was the most advertised of the 3 new Spike TV adult shows, and it lasted 6 episodes, only airing about a month and a half, and then it was removed from the network completely and never spoken of again by the executives. I don't think this show was a very big hit, guys. I think it's just me, I don't know. So, what exactly is the Ren and Stimpy adult party cartoon about? It's exactly what the original Ren and Stimpy was about. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's just Ren and Stimpy doing whatever Ren and Stimpy do. But something's kind of changed here. A lot of things have changed here. You can tell that things are different right from the sounds of the voices. Billy West, when he received the script to the first episode, Onward and Upward, said that the show sounded terrible. So he wouldn't do it because he felt like it would hurt his career. And he has also vowed to never again work for John K. because of the aforementioned reasons I mentioned with the crudity and the impossibility to work with. So they got Eric Bauza, who admittedly does a decent job impersonating Billy West. I mean, he's no Billy West. But he comes pretty close and he does a decent job. The other difference is in Ren's voice. For the first 2 seasons, when he actually worked on the show with Nickelodeon, John K. provided the voice of Ren. And maybe it's because he's out of practice, or maybe he wants to sound a bit older, but Ren's voice sounds a bit deeper, a bit grovelier, and, well, since he smokes in the show, I guess it kind of makes sense that this voice ended up the way it is now. Honestly, it's not too bad, it's just a little bit of a difference, and I guess it helps set this show apart. Sadly, that's really the only positive I can say about the show. Everything else comes crashing down. Now, I like Ren and Stimpy decent enough. It's not my favorite show of all time, but I do like it a fair bit. and it is something to always go back and watch. It's just a fun time. So it's kind of sad that I don't end up liking this one, but there's quite a few reasons. So a lot of Ren and Stimpy cartoons were 7 to 11 minutes in length. These are about 23 minutes. And it's not that they add in a bunch of extra content, no. What they do is they just take an episode, and then they stretch it, and drag it, and do as much as they can to just stuff it full of styrofoam and sand filling just to stretch it out to that time limit, because I guess all adult cartoons have to be 22, 24 minutes. I guess they just can't have 11-minute episodes. I guess that's just impossible. It breaks the laws of physics. It's like having burning water, I guess. And this really doesn't bode well with the style of Ren and Stimpy. Everyone knows what Ren and Stimpy's style is. It's fast, it's spontaneous, it's loud, it's obnoxious, and it's great. This show is loud and it's obnoxious, but the spontaneity and energy just disappears because they take a joke and stretch it out to an extreme degree. Just take a look at the first episode, Onward and Upward. A majority of the episode is just Ren and Stimpy eating mucus and barf. That's it. And it goes on for like 5 minutes. There's no joke, it's just they treat it like fancy food and they eat it. That's pretty much it. The majority of the episode is just them consuming bodily waste. Now, the original show would probably do that, but they'd at most make it about like a 45-second gag. This is over half the episode. And it just shows with the plots too, not even just the jokes. Here is the entire plot of Onward and Upward. Ren and Stimpy live in a hobo's mouth. They don't like living there, so they scramble up some money, and then they go to a spittoon where they eat mucus. Then they get found, and then they get chased away. That's the entire story. I didn't really skip anything important. There's a lot of filler jokes in there that are just there, and again, go on way too long, but these stories are basic. But that's okay, Ren and Stimpy's not about the story, right? Well, yeah, I think someone should remind them of that, because they do episodes where they kind of try to take things seriously, like Ren Seeks Help, or Altruists? I can't tell with that episode if it's supposed to be heartwarming or whatever, but yeah, I'm just gonna say it's all a joke, because I think that bodes better for them. Slightly. And of course, with this being an adult show, that means they could really crank up the dial, right? Ren and Stimpy can finally do all those insane things we never got to see them do in the other show, right? Kind of, I guess. The first episode is not really an episode. It's considered episode 0. It's Man's Best Friend. It's the episode that never aired on Nickelodeon. While that episode's fine and decent, if it was more like that episode, if this whole show was more like that episode, I think it would be a bit better. It wouldn't be great, but it'd be better. Because that one definitely is the most risque of the original, with the tobacco jokes, the copious amount of feces jokes, and then, of course, that infamous ore beating scene at the end. If it was more like that, I think it would be a bit better. For one, it wouldn't be so long and stretched. But the adult humor in this is just basic. It's just, they can say curse words. They can show cleavage. They can have more bodily function jokes. But they're not jokes. They just have the elements there. It's like, oh, Ren and Stimpy have gay sex. And that's it. There's no joke building off it. It's just the characters from the original Nickelodeon show now being a gay couple. Oh, look! We see Ralph Bakshi taking a dump. It's funny because it's Ralph Bakshi. That's it. It's kind of hard to laugh at a joke when there isn't really any joke there. I think Rowdy C from TV Trash put it best when he said, John K. did whatever he could to put stuff in this show that was what the kids at the time who were watching it when they were growing up wanted to see from the original. But something that John K. forgets is that people grow up. And that is very true. A lot of adults don't really want to see, ha, pee, ha, poop, and then just have no basis around it. It's more just a novelty that we get to see Ren and Stimpy do all that extreme stuff. It's like that Channel Awesome thing where they had Pinky and the Brain swearing a lot. While I didn't think that was funny either, I acknowledged that that was just a novelty, which is probably what this was kind of supposed to be. Too bad John didn't know that. So, I'm going to go episode by episode describing what I think of this, because there are unique problems with each of them. I've seen all but one. The only one I skipped out on was that Naked Beach Frenzy one that just doesn't really appeal to me. So I've seen the other 5/6. I already kind of described what I thought about Man's Best Friend, but I'll go a little bit back to Onward and Upward. Again, it's slow, it's dull, it's just a novelty of having them eat bodily waste. And then there's that whole thing where it's like, oh, they're a gay couple. That would be funny if they did anything with it. All that happens is they have gay sex under a blanket, and then they have simple references like, who's the pitcher, who's the catcher? You're the pitcher, I'm the catcher, you're the pitcher, I'm the catcher. That's basically the joke, is that they have gay terminology. Cool. Can you do something with it? The animation in this one definitely does look like the original series, but again, it's stretched, it's slow, and they have good ideas for jokes like Ask Dr. Stupid, or Stimpy imagining Ren looking like Clark Gable XP? I don't know what that is. But again, there's no substance to back it up. They just have the adult elements, and that's it. But okay, it's the first episode. They're just getting their sea legs. Ren seeks help. I actually will defend this one slightly, in being that it is overhated. A lot of this does stem from Mr. Enner's review of it, which I do stand by that review. A lot of what he says is very true. And no, I don't like the episode either. It's disgusting, it's weird, and it takes itself oddly serious sometimes, and then it's definitely overplayed and comedic. Sometimes it's a very inconsistent tone, especially in the end. But this is not the worst. At least it has a couple good things I can say about it. The animation here is some of the most lively I've seen in this version of Ren and Stimpy. While not as nice as some of the older stuff, I hate to say it, but some of the sequences, like the frog having the guts come out of his mouth, is very well animated and kind of appealing to look at. I mean, it's not appealing because it's disgusting, but it looks nice. And with this version of Ren being a bit more psychotic, insane, and unstable, I can kind of see this being his backstory. So at least that fits. But then there's also the fact that it's loud, with Stimpy crying for like the first 2.5 minutes of the episode with no real joke or basis or anything going on there. There's the random end where the therapist turns on Ren and then, uh-oh, he wasn't a therapist, and, what? There's also the fact that it does, again, try to be too crude and too in-your-face without actually having jokes. It's, look, Ren is brutalizing a living thing, and that's it! I feel like I've been saying that point a lot in here, probably not as much as saying, man, this drags or it's slow. Then there's Fire Dogs 2, which sounded like a great idea. So, Ralph Bakshi now comes back to play the Fire Chief from the original Fire Dogs cartoon, as he was supposed to in the proposed sequel that was going to be in the Nickelodeon one, but they didn't want Ralph on their network after all. He's the guy that made Fritz the Cat, Cool World, Hey Good Looking, Coonskin, all that stuff. For what it's worth, Ralph Bakshi does an amazing job selling this episode. He is a really fun actor when he plays this big oaf, and there actually is a line. I didn't laugh at it, but I chuckled at it. It's the only time this show's ever gotten me to chuckle. It's when he's saying, "Hey, do you boys like pizza?" And they're like, "Yeah, we like pizza, yeah." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, cool. Tell you what, I'll let you boys buy me a pizza." So instead of, "Hey, I'll treat you guys to a pizza," he's like, "I'll let you guys buy me a pizza." It wasn't the best, but I thought it was kind of funny. But the rest of the episode's just him monologuing and acting stupid. Ren and Stimpy are basically just props he uses in there. John Kay went on to say that this episode was basically a documentary, which was essentially talking about when he was Bakshi's protege, I guess. Well, if that's the case, then John Kay probably should have called the cops, because this stuff is terrible. But here's the thing about comedy. A lot of the best stuff comes from real-life experiences, and this could very well be the case. But again, there's no basis to the joke. It's just random incidents of Ralph Bakshi saying, "Hey waitress, where do you pee around here?" Or when he goes into the wrong bathroom, or when he just has bad dreams, or can't take a crap well, or wants to get laid. There's no substance, it's just anecdotes almost. It's like an in-joke that we're not in. It's an out-joke, I guess. But we're the ones on the outside looking in. Ooh. This one has, I think, the most potential to be funny. Although it doesn't really fit well with the original Fire Dogs cartoon, which they actually play beforehand, it still had a good idea, and Bakshi still does a good performance. Again, there's no joke. No basis of a joke. Then there's Altruist, which This is the one that drags the most. It's unnecessarily long, it's slow, not much happens, it's just dull and uneventful. The most interesting thing about it is that one of the people that Ren and Stimpy are trying to help has no head. It's pretty much the most interesting part of the episode. Nothing exciting happens or even comes close, and nothing that even makes me smile. Then there's Stimpy's Pregnant, which admittedly I didn't finish. I couldn't finish this one. This is the only time that I ended up getting grossed out by this show. Because the other episodes, they're not gross. They're boring. Even Onward and Upward with them eating mucus and stuff and barf. It's just boring. This is the only one that got me grossed out. But not in a fun, ew, sick kind of way. But it's just, ew, that's gross. And not even like super grossed out. Just kind of, ew, that was unpleasant. Or, that's dark. Guess I just become desensitized to the show's style of writing. And I turned it off before the infamous live birthing scene came on. And yes, I already know how it ends. The baby turns out to just be a pile of crap because Stimpy was actually constipated, not pregnant. Moving on. That was Ren and Stimpy-Adult Party Cartoon. It fails to grasp Ren and Stimpy on many, many levels, although the animation and music kinda replicated it, especially the style. After all, it is still Spunko. The writing couldn't hold a candle to the original. The jokes are just blank. And everything just seems so slow and uneventful. Which is everything Ren and Stimpy shouldn't have been. Honestly, it's not quite as bad as I originally had in my original video, but only by a hair. This was a very unpleasant show to rewatch and revisit, and I will definitely give it the scallion seal of disapproval. No way it's escaping again. Very unpleasant. Very, very unpleasant. But not for the reasons everybody says. Again, more boring than it is revolting. And it's no wonder that John K. has never been able to get his show since. And probably never will, judging by what happened to him in the news recently. So what did you guys think of Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon? Comment below, let me know. I'll see you tomorrow.
Good night, everybody.